Hi, this is Marc Lopez. I'm here with my good friend, family law attorney, Joni Sedberry. Joni, introduce yourself.
Hey, Mark. My name is Joni Sedberry, like Mark said. I am a family law attorney that works at Harrison and Moberly. My main office is here in Fishers, Indiana.
And so I've known you and trust you. I've known you for quite some time. And I just wanted to jump in and ask, how is all of this pandemic, the stay at home order, the quarantine, how is this affecting family law cases?
Family law cases are really kind of crazy right now. We have had a drop off of a lot of cases, but at the same time, other cases are really picking up speed. We've got people that are concerned about parenting time right now with everything happening with COVID-19. We've got people that had just filed for divorce or that were waiting on a hearing, and now the courts are having to slow down their operations. So we're seeing a lot of new stuff right now that we are all trying to approach together.
And, I was on a CLE earlier this week, and Indiana Supreme Court Justice David, he made a comment that this is a temporary abnormal. And so I feel like a lot of us are trying to figure this stuff out. From your perspective, what you're seeing is COVID-19, is that affecting child custody, child transfers, parenting time? Give me some background on that.
So it is affecting it from the perspective of we've got a lot of people that are concerned about it, obviously, especially when you've got one parent that works in law enforcement or in a grocery store or in healthcare, and you've got another parent that is working from home. Plus, we have parenting time schedules that are summertime schedules versus school schedules. So we have a lot of questions about, well, the kids aren't in school now. Do I still have to follow the same parenting time plan? And the short answer to that is, and of course, everybody's favorite attorney answer is it depends, right? But the short answer to that is the governor's orders specifically say that parenting time orders remain in place. So parenting time exchanges should be done as they are already ordered to be done, unless you have a specific court order on your case that says otherwise. So if you can still be going to a grocery store and things, you can still exchange a child or children for parenting time exchanges as well.
So that is one of the essential functions that Governor Holcomb has carved out. Like, you still have to honor parenting time guidelines, and
Absolutely.
those
Section 16E actually of his order specifically said parenting time exchanges should continue.
Awesome. What does I am not divorced, and I grew up as a child of divorce, but there wasn't a pandemic going on.
Right.
What does, if one parent has primary custody and they do not feel as though the other parent, it's safe to send their kid there, do they have any options?
One main thing that we need to do is make sure that parents understand that even though the person is your ex or someone that you don't particularly get along with, they hopefully the best interests of the children are remain at the forefront, and that we have to trust that no parent is going to do anything to put a child in risk intentionally. So if you have somebody, especially if they're working in the healthcare field as a doctor or a nurse, and they feel that it is not safe for the children to continue the regular parenting time, we are working together to maybe substitute additional time over the summer or to do fall break instead of spring break, something along those lines that accommodates and makes sure that children get time with both parents. But the hope is that we can keep things as normal as possible for kids during this time. As adults, we are able to kind of rationalize and read the news and figure out what's going on. And kids are really struggling right now because they have no idea. They just know their worlds have been turned upside down. So the plan is to keep parenting time as normal as possible for these kids during this time. Now, if it rises to the level that, hey, listen, mom or dad is not practicing social distancing. We found out they're having birthday parties. We found out they're doing these things. We found out that, they're not being safe. They're not washing hands. The courts are doing a great job of finding other ways to have hearings. Some courts are doing web hearings. Some courts are doing Zoom. Some judges are saying, hey, let's have a telephone call with all the attorneys on these cases and discuss this. And so specific situations can be brought to the attention of the court if there's major concerns. But for the most part, everybody needs to know, unless you've been told otherwise, you need to follow your parenting time plan as well.
I don't practice family law at all, but I always hear from, friends such as you and others that, it's important to put the kids first and have good communication with your ex-spouse or your ex-partner. I can't even imagine just how beneficial having a positive relationship, or at least positive communication during this time, would make everything so much easier. Especially if you're able to just do these, hey, I work in healthcare, let's just do something different later on. So yeah, it's probably too late if you don't already have it, but man, what a great reason to make sure, just don't keep that positive relationship going. Joni, what about, I have read and I watched the news reports. Indiana has a unprecedented level of unemployment claims. And the reason why is many businesses are being forced to shut. What can parents do if they're having problems meeting their child support obligations during this time?
I recommend filing a petition to modify child support as soon as possible. One thing about child support is it can be modified retroactively to the day that there was the filing. So if your income is changing, I recommend getting that filed as soon as possible so that the court is aware of that situation, but then also the other side is aware. Just not paying support is not a good idea. Obviously, even if both parents lose their jobs, children still need to be fed. And they still need to be clothed and taken care of. And so paying what you can, as much as you can, is helpful and is advised for sure. But if you absolutely cannot do anything, you do need to get a petition to modify on file as soon as possible, knowing that your order stays in effect until the court says otherwise. We have also a lot of people filing contempt actions. Hey, he's behind in support or she's behind in support. And, one of the things is that in order for somebody to be held in contempt, it has to be a willful and intentional violation. And when you completely lost your job and you have no income, that doesn't necessarily mean you're intentionally saying, I don't want to support my children anymore. It just means the well has dried up some. So we are finding that there is a lot of compassion being given right now to those situations. But the more you go ahead and contribute as much as you can, even if it's not your full order, the more the court is going to look at you as not somebody that intentionally withheld something, but that you just couldn't do it. But again, we have to say follow all court orders as much as you possibly can, unless you receive an order otherwise. But there are options to try to get at least some relief for you.
And so just to break that down, if you lost your job, number one, the court order is still in order. Pay what you can, as much as you can, and then file a modification. And the idea is if you have a hearing, and maybe 2 or 3, who knows when the courts are going to be having hearing again, that can be retroactive to when you actually file it.
Yes, correct. And then another thing, our legal community is a pretty close group of people. We're really trying to work together with as many ways as we can to keep everybody informed and keep processes moving. So even though courthouses aren't open, a lot of attorneys and judges are working remotely and trying to keep processes going. We're doing mediations via Zoom. We're having a lot of conferences as far as we have several attorneys and judges even doing Zoom meetings each week to just keep everybody updated and what are the governor's new orders and what are we doing with this case, and constant communication within the legal community has really helped. So even though the courts are not necessarily open and hearing these cases as often as they are before, we have to understand there will be a backlog, once the courts finally open again. So we're trying to keep these things moving. So if you can reach an agreement with your ex on a child support modification or a parenting time modification, we can put those things into writing and get them filed with the court. And that's just the same as having a court order it after a hearing. Or we are doing mediations and things like that to keep processes moving. So if you have a local attorney, check in with that attorney and see what options there are to get things resolved rather than waiting until possibly the end of summer to get things done.
And Joni, you made a point earlier that, about contempt motions, it has to be willful. If some of your clients are calling up like, hey, he hasn't paid child support, I know he lost his job, I want to file contempt. What is your response? I mean, you're in front of these judges every single day, or every day you're practicing in front of them. I'm assuming most of the judges you're in front of are probably just as reasonable as ones I'm in front of. They're not going to take it very kindly, clogging up their stuff with these contempt, people that didn't choose to lose their job. They're not, I just can't imagine judges are going to be happy to see these things filed. Am I right?
Yeah, I think for the most part, now it's a delicate balance because like we said, kids still have to be fed and taken care of. And so, when you have a parent contact you with legitimate concerns, you have to take your client's concerns seriously. But we're also having conversations about the big picture right now, and that this pandemic is very unprecedented. And we don't know exactly what judges are going to do and what their demeanor is going to be. And every judge is different and every judge is human. And we've got some judges in some counties have made their opinions clear, and it might be different from judges in other counties or even from court to court. So we are definitely having conversations with our clients about, let's look at the bigger picture here, and let's also reserve resources and things too. We may not want to spend money filing a contempt action and the fees and everything associated with that. If you're not receiving child support, you may need to be conserving those funds because you may need to pay a little bit more for your part of taking care of this child while the other parent is out of work or something like that. So we're just really trying to balance everything and come up with a solution that's best for our clients, and even sometimes more importantly, what's best for the kids that are wrapped up in these situations.
Anybody that just heard that, I want you to think about what you just said. Hey, it may be in your best interest not to pay an attorney, conserve that money. That's like legitimate good advice. And that just goes to show you, that's why I trust Joni so much as an attorney. She's not trying to get out there, run up fees and whatnot. She's trying to make sure that, people are taken care of. And I appreciate that. I really do. Know my clients do, or anybody watching this does. Do you have any just big takeaway for anybody watching this who is confused about their case? Anything like that?
I think the big thing is just we're all right there together. This is one of the first things that we have ever gone through where the entire world is going through this at the same time. We've never had a circumstance that we can offer as much sympathy and empathy to each other because we're all going through it. I can't think of anybody that is not impacted in some way, shape, or form, whether it's business or financially or emotionally or through loved ones, that's not impacted by this. So, we're all in this together. Let's have some consideration. Let's look at the big picture. Let's figure out what we can do going forward to kind of work together. And the way that we're able to treat each other during this is really going to set the stage for co-parenting relationships going forward. I have some clients that have been major adversaries coming into this, and I have just witnessed them really pulling together and putting the kid at the forefront. And then I've got other cases where it's going the opposite direction. And I truly think that when people are willing to come together and just look at the big picture of how can we get through this together, it's going to make a difference going forward once this is all done and over with, and possibly impact the relationship they have with the other side and their children for the remainder of their minor years.
Thank you so much for meeting with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you for this opportunity, Mark. It's always a pleasure to work with you.